live if we're not fully live yet. So here we go. How you doing this morning?
Uh, Better. I feel like
Better?
I'm among things.
You've had a long couple of days.
Yeah, I started feeling ill on Thursday, and so this weekend was kind of just spent laying on the couch and watching Christmas movies. I didn't do a whole lot, and I'm still not 100%, but I'm probably about 87%. And yeah, we're gonna make it a good day. So
87%. That's still
yeah,
not bad. That's a lot better than
no,
you were on Saturday. Yeah.
yeah, Saturday was rough.
Yeah. Saturday
Yeah.
was pretty rough for you. So, all right. This is an exciting session for me, Rebecca, because it's one of the things that I believe as individuals we forget about this component of personal growth and development. But yet, it's probably the most important step in the whole process. In fact, I don't know which step is not important, but I think this one is one of the most important ones. And it's the one that oftentimes gets overlooked. So, what are we talking about today?
So we're talking about step 6, which is repeat. So we've done awareness, commit, learn, implement, evaluate, and now we're on repeat.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think this is a good step. I think there's two components to it. Sometimes we have to repeat with the same things that we've already become aware of, because I think sometimes we get back into the swing of things and back doing the same things again, but then it's also repeating on new things that we need to become aware of.
Would you have an example of that from your own life?
Oh yeah, there's many, but so we won't go into that. But there's always new things that we can be aware of that we need to change or tweak or work on, or the repeatable ones I don't like to think about because they're kind of hard to focus on. Sometimes for me, I know it's the value of valuing other people. And it's not that I don't value them, but sometimes I take it for granted, kind of,
Hmm.
um, the
Hmm.
value of other people. And I have to remind myself why I'm here and why they're here. And, sometimes it's not that I forget, it's just it gets pushed back in my mind a little bit. Somebody cuts me off in traffic, and it's not the first thing that I think of is adding value to them. So,
Uh huh.
um, it's something that I need to work on constantly.
Yep. Yep. Well, this idea of repeat, we're going in and we're going to talk now about the six steps of personal growth and development. Which let's do the six steps. Step number one is awareness, right? Step number two is commitment. With commitment, you're able to move forward because you're committing to that growth. Number three is learning. If you don't learn something new, you're going to be repeating the same cycles over and over. So we need to learn something and we need to implement. You've got to implement something to make an change, to make an improvement. And then you're going to evaluate it, right? Which is what we talked about last week. And evaluation is extremely important because you want to test what you improved. This is one of the things we used to do in precision agriculture after we implemented is we measured the improvement. What was the evaluation? What was the outcome? And then step number six is repeat. Repeat the cycle. What are we now aware of? What are we going to commit to? So this cycle of continuous repetition, continuous growth, repeating the same process over and over and over, it helps people understand how to grow. It helps people understand which areas to learn. You cannot learn everything, but you can learn anything. And that's where we oftentimes make mistakes. We try to learn so much and we try to implement so much in the wrong areas. When if we just get focused on this process, awareness, commitment, learning, implement, evaluate, repeat. You do this over and over and over, you're going to find yourself getting better and better and better all the time. It's absolutely critical that we really learn how to do this in system. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. So consistency, I think, is fundamental. And even if people would just take these 6 steps, just write them down. My nose is itching this morning. Take these 6 steps, write them down. And when you go through the process of anything in life, I don't care what it is. It can be a personal growth plan, it could be anything. But what stage are you in? If we get stuck in the learning stage and we never get to the implementation stage, that doesn't do anybody any good. If we implement all the time, over and over and over, doing the same things over and over and over, but then we never get any further than that, what value has that, right? So we want to be able to get consistency over and over and over and over again. And that's really why we have to measure where we are in each of these different steps and know that what we implement, we evaluate, we repeat it over and over and over. That way we're doing the right things in the right time for the right reasons. And we don't get stuck in one area.
Yep.
You
Yeah,
know,
because that's easy to do.
It's very easy to do. It's very easy to do. This last week we were at the Nebraska Ag Expo, which I thought was just a great expo. If you've never been there, you should go. Even if you're not in agriculture, you should go to hear what's going on in agriculture and see what's out there. I mean, it's really, really was amazing. And one of the things that I saw at the Ag Expo were people that I've been connected with for multiple years, a long time. And what was really exciting was to see how many of those individuals have taken what they learned, you know, 15 years ago when we first met, and look at the growth that they've had. Look at the success that they've had. That was really exciting for me with a handful of people. And then there were other companies out there, there were other individuals that were still teaching the same things that they taught 15 years ago. And it was some of the original content that they taught 15 years ago. And it really hit me. It's like, wow, there are certain individuals here that have had explosive growth. And there's other individuals that are still doing the same things that they were doing 15 years ago. And that's when it really hit me. It's like that's the difference. Those are the ones that have changed, the ones that are teaching something better, that have accelerated their businesses and grown to a new level. They have followed this 6-step process and they've repeated the cycle over and over and over again because their growth is showing it. Their growth is showing it. Those that haven't, they're stuck. They've been implementing the same thing over and over and over for so many years. And
It's
that
not,
is that's kind of spooky.
some of this is, we talk about this being in personal development and growth, and that is it is very
Mm-hmm.
much so, these 6 steps, but it kind of comes with just about everything. If you're working with customers, you've kind of got to become aware of what is it that your customer needs, or your
Oh,
client,
absolutely.
or whatever, and implementing that into it, and then repeating that, because like you said, with the times and changing, and things changing in our industry and all of that, you've got to make changes yourself. So this is not, these 6 steps can go further than just personal development. They can go
Absolutely.
into, yeah.
Absolutely. It's your business development, it's your family development. I see families that do the same things over and over and over again, and they never make a change. They never make an improvement. And, I understand tradition. I really do. There's a lot of value in tradition. The thing that you want to remember about your family growth is if you have loved ones coming in, we have grandchildren that are growing up, right? And a big part of what I want to be able to bring to our grandchildren are the things that are new to them, right? So we do have to, like you said, think about our customers. And on that journey, the customer journey, There may be times when you need to go back 15 years. You may need to go back in your business to the fundamentals, to the basics, and you may need to start your customers on that journey there. But if you have grown substantially and you're not stuck back there 15 years ago, if you're not stuck, you can draw them out so they're not stuck. That's what I found to be really, really, really important in business is making sure that I'm moving ahead. I have a plan to move forward. And then the customers, when I can go back and connect on someone that is still back there 15 years, I can move them forward. But if I'm still stuck back there, it doesn't work. It doesn't
Yeah.
work. And you're exactly right, Rebecca. There's a lot of different ways we can do that. But I think about our youngest grandson. He's in a learning stage right now, and we need to go back a little bit ourselves so we can connect with him and then move him forward into this modern world that he's living in now in a way that's great for him, in a way that really is powerful for him, and not make the mistakes that we made. Right?
Well, and we need to not make it so complicated.
Right. Absolutely.
You know,
Simplify it.
sometimes, absolutely. I mean, sometimes we sit back and we try to, when we think about the things that we need to work on or the things that we need to, we look at our customers and we try to make it difficult. And it's okay. Sometimes it's not. I gotta go get something to drink.
Okay, go get something to drink. Um, Rebecca, with that being said, we sometimes make it difficult, but I think we do it unintentionally, right? We don't intentionally make things complicated for our customers. But here's one of the things that I believe it hinders us a little bit as leaders in this industry. And as we're waiting for Rebecca to come back, we'll talk on this just briefly. One of the things that seems to be a struggle in the industry is people feel like they have to be smart. They have to be the smartest person in the room. You have to be the smartest person in the group. And while that is important to a certain extent, we have to be growing in knowledge. We have to be growing in wisdom. But there's another element that we cannot forget, and this is the fact that we have to be in a state of continuous improvement, continuous knowledge and growth. And if we're not there ourselves, we may believe that we're the smartest person in the room. But if we're not on a consistent plan of personal growth and development, somebody's going to pass us up. Somebody will pass us by and we'll never see it coming because somebody else is already growing consistently. And that's one of the things that I've seen in this industry is all too often we want to be smart. We want to be the smartest person in the room instead of the best leader in the room. The best leader in the room is going to listen. They're going to learn. They're going to learn if the one thing that you learn is nothing more than how the other person thinks. It's not about what you learn in knowledge, it's about what you learn about someone else. And then as you hear that someone else speak and they're sharing their thoughts, then you can learn how to connect with them and lead them simply. You made a comment that we make it complicated. That's the part that we screw up by trying to be too smart. If we can simplify it to that person's level of speaking, we're not using big words. And if we use a big word, we simplify that big word to something that they understand. And when we simplify it to what they understand, they will stay connected. They will continue to move with us. They will continue to grow with us without stress, without struggle. But that is so important to learn. Extremely important to
Well,
learn.
I think the other part of it is it doesn't all have to be done at once.
Nope.
No, that's where I fall into things so bad sometimes is when I start thinking about um, this development and all of that that I think, oh man, I got to do everything all at once or it's not going to work. And it's not true, but you do
No,
have to do, I mean, it takes steps. You just got to make sure that you're taking the right steps and that you are taking the steps
that's right.
to work on that.
That's right. It's just interesting. One of our clients, we did I did a little training with them here this last week, and one of the things that really came to head with them is how they do internal growth, internal development of their organization, and this is developing their internal team, which a lot of leaders don't do that at all. They just don't do that, and I think it's something that is absolutely critical. And it comes down to being the head of the company, right? The head of the company is the head of the company is responsible for vision. As the scripture would say, without a vision, the people are going to perish. Without a vision, the people will perish. And that is one of the things that a leader has to do. Well, not only do you understand that there needs to be a vision that's well cast for the people, but now you have to develop the vision, right? You got to create the steps for the vision. You have to be able to put the vision into a process that the people understand, put the vision into something that is valuable for them. And that is where all of these steps come into play for a leadership team. And when I went back and showed them how to build this training internally, it was like a light bulb went off for them. And these were executives that have been doing this for a long time. But it's one of those things that we can't miss is how important it is to train your team internally. And it starts at the top with the vision cast. And if the executive team, the leadership doesn't understand how to cast the vision, then that's the first step. That's the first training step right there.
Yep.
Extremely
I agree.
important.
I mean, yeah. I know it gets a little redundant sometimes talking about making those plans, and the more the more you can break it down, the better off you're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And the more likely you will fix something, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I don't know. And I know that's a lot of my C personality coming out in that, but the more detail and the more things that you can know about it, I talk to people about sometimes their business, and I say, well, where do you see yourself in 5 years, or what do you want? Well, I want a great business. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
We all
Yeah.
want a great business, but what does that mean? What does
Yeah.
break it down. And so the more you can break it down, when you become aware of something that maybe you need to work on, the more that you can break it down and do it in chunks, the better off you're going to be. You can't just, I really wish I could wake up the next morning and go, okay, I'm changing all of this. It's all going to be different. And I wish I was like that, but
Yeah.
I know I'm not.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Well, it's interesting going back to this company that we were talking about just a little bit ago. They didn't realize, or they assumed, they made the assumption that the vision was cast, and they set goals, and the goal was supposed to be the vision. But when I asked the question, I said, how well can the other people state the goals? How well does everyone else in the organization? How well can they communicate it? And what we found out is that there were really about three different elements that were missing. Number one is communication. It wasn't completely done. It wasn't done well, right? The communication was not happening, even though they thought it was. Communication's only as good as it is received, not how well it's given. So communication was not being ingrained into the hearts of the people. That was one of the first ones. The second one was the leadership component. They weren't getting followership because the leadership was missing, which again tied directly to communication. And there was a missing link there where we assumed leadership was happening, but it wasn't. And that was a struggle. And again, this is something that as executives, we don't like to hear this stuff, but what's the greatest friend to a leader? Awareness, right? Once you're aware of it, you can start to change it. And then the third step was systems management, which is a little bit different. It was communicating, getting the leadership and the followership, and then managing the system. It was all those different components made a world of difference. And we had to help the team understand how to put those together into systems, put those together in such a way that it would help them, would help their teams, and be able to do really what we're talking about here: awareness, commit, learn. Right? There's this cycle. It's the same thing that we're talking about here is what we did with that executive team. These systems work everywhere. And that's why this repeat process is critical. Don't miss it. Don't miss that. You got to repeat the cycle or you don't get the growth.
Well, and one thing with that executive team that we're working with, it wasn't just one of them that had to do all of it. They had
Right.
to give ownership to each individual person to
Yep.
take on some of these, for the fact of one might be better in a different area, but also one person can't take on the job of five people.
No,
And
no,
no. So,
no, that's exactly right. Well, let's see. Do we have anybody on our Zoom call that wants to jump in and share with us today? If somebody wants to share a few thoughts,
yeah,
that
I
would
think
be
we got
great.
the Zoom fixed. So I'm very excited about that. Yeah.
Yes, I believe we got the Zoom fixed. We've got people back on here again. So, Rebecca, that's awesome. Um, see if anybody wants to step in. Love to have some thoughts from our Zoom team. That would be great. David, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry. I had to get on a different method. My laptop was playing up, so I missed the start of this. But it's just one thing that resonated with me. It's the information is only as good as it's received. I wish you'd tell my wife that. When
You mean that in the way that you speak to her or the way that she speaks to you?
she says something, and if I don't catch it, it's like I'm not repeating myself. And
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
it's like, well, okay, I have no idea what you just said. So you didn't, no message received. And it's like, well, I'm not repeating myself. You got to hear it the first time. So anyway, that's just resonates with me. But yeah, that
Now, I'm
was,
sure if we had Annie on here, her version would be, I really would just like David to listen to me so I didn't have to repeat myself.
that is exactly what she would say. Exactly. So I
Yep.
guess we go through life barely communicating, but that's happens too much.
Yep. Well, it's
It does.
interesting, David. Now, in all reality, let's bring it back to reality. You do a lot of public speaking. You stand in front of audiences and you teach. And the thing that we have to remember in that same situation is when we are teaching, that same scenario is happening, right? Either somebody's maybe stuck on a picture on a slide, or their mind is in a different place, or they're thinking about something that they resonate with according to what you just said, but you said that 10 sentences ago, and they're still stuck on that one thing, and now they've
Which
missed it.
is why when I do talk, and if I'm on a Zoom call or something like that, I will be doing a lot of talking, especially if you can't see people's reactions if they don't have cameras on, like this morning. You're not sure if the information is received or whether they've just totally tuned out. So I'll always pause and say, are we, do you understand, or give people a chance for feedback. That is something, and quite often when you do pause, people will have questions, and so yeah, that's a technique I guess I've learned, is to do that. It's very easy to just keep talking, and
I know it's hard to do in a crowd, but one of the things that I'm learning to do is to ask questions, because I know sometimes when I go, if I'll say, well, do you understand? And I'll get a, uh-huh, uh-huh. And
Yeah,
then
yeah,
find out 2 days
yeah.
later that no, they didn't understand. So I kind of come, not so much, but close to, hey, repeat to me what we talked about, or repeat to me what you're going to do. Tell me what you're going to do. So then I know that
Yep.
they understand it,
So
because
Yep.
if you're giving somebody instruction, that is definitely, it's almost required. You know, hey, I
right.
just told you what to do. What
Yep.
did I just tell you? And just to make sure the instruction is received. I've noticed, Kylan, that a technique that you use is that you repeat yourself. If there's something that you want people to, if nothing else, go away with that message, you'll repeat it. Like, but not twice in a long sentence. You'll say it twice straight away. And it's almost like, hey, this is bold or underlined, this point that I'm saying.
Yeah.
You just say it twice.
It's interesting you brought that up, David, because one of the things John Maxwell talked about is repeating the same thing at least 6 times in your talk to get that message across, and do it in different ways. So definitely some things to think about. Brad Forkner, how are you this morning, my friend?
I'm wonderful.
Good.
I was always taught, tell somebody what you're going to tell them, and then tell them why you told them that. And it's maybe getting in toward your 6 times. One of my challenges today is I've got to finish getting the slides together for this no-tail thing. And when you only get an hour and you're trying to do a wraparound and cover more than one little piece of it, because I was just told by one of the people I worked the other day, I just came back from a 2-day seminar. You can't believe what this guy knows. And we talked about this. My response to him was, well, you gave him more than 20 minutes to make a point. If I'm going through 150 slides here, maybe 300 by the time I sort through these, to say, what is the most important thing I can share with somebody in an hour's time? It's if you have any kind of a vision, how do you condense that? Or how do you say, I've got to outguess what these people, A, don't know, and B, want to know?
Yeah, that's a challenging question. That's a challenging question. One of the things, Brad, that I've done in that is, what do the people want to know? We talk about walking the room. I always try to show up a day before, if I'm speaking the second day, or try to get invited to some of the previous meetings and things of that nature. I try to get involved as much as I can, but most importantly, before I ever talk, I want to walk the crowd. Right? I want to walk the crowd and ask questions like, what are you planning to take away from today? What are you looking for? If you leave here today and it's a win for you, what is it? What did you learn? Right? Those kind of questions are absolutely vital right before I talk, because it may change the whole course of what I'm teaching. Right?
If you got to send it in today so they can put it on their platform and you're not speaking for 3 or 4 weeks, how you do that?
Well, that's a great question, and I'm going to put up the basics. I'm going to put those in there, and then I'm going to change my message. I will speak to it differently, or maybe when we get there, I'll hide 50% of my slides or whatever. But I'm still going to walk that crowd and get the message out that the crowd wants to hear. So that is a great challenge. But yeah, put it out there. It's all you can really do.
I think for me on that aspect, looking at that, is you kind of want to go through and pick the top 3 to 5 things that you think are most important, because if you give them too much stuff, it's information overload. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And leave there going, what the heck did I just listen to?
Yeah, this is one area where less is more, and you pick the top 5 things. If you leave a whole bunch of stuff out, you can kind of use that as an advertisement for them to follow up with you, get some business. But the other thing is, just on a practical level, you never want to have more than 1 slide per minute, and quite often, it's less than that, so that you can. That's kind of the pace that you think, oh, I'll just talk quick. That actually confuses people. You're better off having fewer slides and talking deeper, spending more time on them,
and also have no more than about 20 words on your slide at any given time. You want to have the fewer the words, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. But definitely less is more, and keep it down to, if you are trying to, tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. It's like, I'm going to give you 5 things that if you learn nothing else, just take away these 5 things, and that way you can go deeper. I've also found the technique that works for me is if I tell them I'm going to tell them 5 things, I'll put placeholders in there to say, now I'm talking about this thing, right? And now I'm talking about the next thing, and I'll actually have a subheading slide, because that's the thing for me to gather my thoughts. It's a little technique I use, that if I say, okay, I'm going to talk about nitrogen, and I'm going to talk about potassium and or phosphorus, and then potassium like NPK, I'll actually put a placeholder in there. Okay, let's talk about nitrogen. Okay, now let's talk about phosphorus, and that way they kind of know that you've covered them, and then you get to the end and say, hey, let's just summarize. But that's the technique that I've used, is actually put a placeholder to make sure people that you focus. It's a way that I kind of think, okay, now I can really talk about something different, and it's kind of like a new paragraph if you're writing it in an essay. But everyone's different, so find your own technique. But that's just what works for me.
Well, there are different techniques out there. You want to find the one that connects to your audience. And going back to what Brad Forkner was asking, well, how do you prepare for this? The one thing that I do know, Brad, about what you do, you should be able to find out from the leader of the event who, the demographics of the majority of the audience, who are the people that are coming, who's going to be there. And then the thing that I know about your content is you can go so deep so fast, and most of the audience is not ready for the fundamentals. They're struggling with the fundamentals in a lot of these audiences because they're just not as well educated and as well versed as you are. And being able to take what David said, 5 or 6 of the core fundamentals, and how can you take any one of those at any given time and go deeper into the conversation. But if you have a baseline of the fundamentals, it's like these 6 steps of personal growth. We've used these 6 steps now for years, but I'm always building on them. I can go extremely deep in any one of these 6 steps, but those become our fundamentals, right? And those are the basics that we build on. And if you can take those fundamentals and be ready at any given time to go deep, now you can connect to really any audience that you want, because those 5 or 6 fundamentals will take you anywhere on the journey that you want to go. And if you have those built into your presentation, you can really accommodate from there, if that makes sense.
Well, and I think one thing that, like, Brad, if you kind of know the audience that you're talking to, and if they have kind of maybe heard you speak before, the majority of them, I think that would make a difference. If they haven't, like Kylan said, building that foundation of what they need to know and building off of that later. But right now, and I hate to say it, sometimes I say they're like kindergartners learning. So build the foundation. But if they have heard you before, if the majority of them have heard you go through a lot of this and they understand a lot of this, well, then you take them up to maybe the next level. Maybe not so much the foundation, but the next level. So you kind of got to just add that into part of it, is where do you think their level is? The majority of them, not all of them. Some of them are way up here. Some of them are just starting. But if you kind of understand maybe the majority of them and what you're trying to get across, is it they got to understand the basics before they can build on that.
That's being married to this kindergarten teacher who tells you 5 points, 5 minutes at a 5-year-old level. They'll tell you if they want to know more.
Absolutely. I like that.
Yeah, there's a lot to that. This has been an interesting conversation here for the repeat discussion. I should probably, Rebecca, at some point in time, revitalize the training we did several years ago, called The Purpose of Presentations. And it's really the idea behind doing presentations of any kind, anywhere. What is the purpose of a presentation? And what a lot of people don't, or sometimes forget, or don't realize about the presentation process is they really don't care as much about how much knowledge you have as much as they care about how well you connect, right? The audience wants to be connected to the speaker. The audience wants to feel that the speaker knows them. The purpose of the presentation is to connect with the audience so that you can get the audience to feel an idea. And when I say feel an idea, it's to feel that they can do something different and have the confidence that they can do it. Right. And all too often our presentations are about data or information instead of that connection to the audience that they can do something different and have the confidence to be successful in it. And that's one of the reasons that we do presentations in the first time in at the beginning. It's like, why am I doing this? Because I want to help somebody improve their life. I want to help somebody make a change. And it's making that connection is the purpose of a presentation, and it's leading that person to a different level of belief in their own mind. It's nothing more than influence. It falls right back into the 3 I's: influence and impact. If you can influence that audience, it's because you've connected with them and they feel you, and then you can impact them once you have that connection. And that's such a power play of the purpose of the presentation, if that makes sense.
Well, and I think a lot of that kind of what David had said, it goes to, so for me, the understanding of a presentation are the points that you want to get across. So the points that you want to reiterate and make sure that they understand, it's kind of like the bold and the underlined, putting those up there to make sure, hey, look at this. This is important. This is what, so that's another piece of it, but.
Yep. Yep. No, for sure. I just got a message here that our Monday mind shift, I misspelled it this morning. So sorry about that, people. We'll try to get that right next time. All right, my friends. Well, this has been a great conversation. Any other final thoughts, Rebecca, or our Zoom audience?
No, now I'm trying to figure out what you misspelled. See?
It's on the
Squirrel.
Facebook, I'm sure. I think I left the F out of shift. You do the calculation.
Passing on Facebook already this morning.
All right, if that's my biggest mistake today, it's going to be a great day.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey guys, thank you so much for being a part of this. Rebecca, thank you for doing this series this last week. I'm anxious for 2025. I think we're working on a lot of great material moving forward. We have the Elite Business Program coming out, and that has been something that's been heavy on my mind for several months. In fact, the last year or two has been heavy on my mind is how do we help people just grow their businesses into something that really has power for them and their customers. And we're going to be talking quite a bit about that. And some of the other things that are going to be coming down the line is just, bringing more value to the customers this year. I know in agriculture, it's a tough economic world. It's economically challenging right now. And that means we have to increase our value. Doesn't mean that you're not going to make sales, but you had better be increasing your value. And because farmers are only going to pay for what's valuable to them. So if you're just delivering a product or you're just delivering something like you've always done it before, you might want to think about how you increase your value message, your value proposition. You don't have to give more away. You just have to learn how to speak the language, learn how to help and connect to those farmers in a way that, proves your value. And there are some products that just aren't going to do that right now. And we need to understand that. There's just going to be some things that don't. So what things do? What are the things that you can connect with? What are the things that you can bring to the producers that have value, that they're willing to work with you on and make those changes? We have to shift when the economy comes this way, and it's just part of what we do. So, my friends, I do want to thank you, though, for being part of this. And as we move into 2025, we look at some of these changes in what's going on around our world. Let's embrace them. Let's embrace the problems and turn them into possibilities. So that's our whole purpose the last few weeks, talking about this growth process. So I look forward to serving with you and working with you all as we move into the next season.
So the next couple weeks are going to be, next week is, Christmas. So we'll probably do a thankful, grateful year in review type of call. The week after that is moving forward. We got a new year, the whole new year, new you. We can work on that, but what do you want for the new year? What do you want? What do you want to look forward to this next year? So let's continue to look at that. So
All right. Sounds great. Thank you, everyone. God bless. Make it awesome.
have a great week.